Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Always An Expat, a podcast dedicated to elevating expat stories, brought to you by fellow expat, yours truly, Richard Taylor. My guest today is Neal Best. Neal lives in Northern California and is the founder of futuremobility.io, which is a strategic advisory company focused on the successful implementation of new clean mobility technology, which sounds like a great business to be in right now in just the right part of the world. Now, Neal first came to my attention when he posted on LinkedIn about it being 10 years to the day since he'd moved to the US with his wife and 3 small children. And there's this fantastic picture of them on the airplane, kids having a meltdown. I just identified with it so hard. And he listed with some of the surprises, challenges, observations, basically stuff we talk about on this podcast a lot. And I just thought, I've got to have this guy on. And hey presto, here we are. So here we go. So look, I'm excited to get into this one. Before we get into it, just got to get the boring stuff out of the way. Always an Expat is not a financial podcast. It's a podcast about the expat journey, specifically being a Brit in the US, but it is brought to you by Plan First Wealth. Plan First Wealth is a business I founded and run today, and we work with successful British expatriates living across the US. People like the boys and girls who feature on this show. And we help them make the most of the opportunity, avoid the expat landmines, and one day to retire happier, which is what it's all about, right? Now, with that being said, whilst Plan First Wealth LLC is an SEC registered investment advisor, the views and opinions expressed in the programme are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Plan First Wealth. Information presented is for educational purposes only. Whew, all right. Right, here we go. Without further ado, let's get into this. Hi, Neal. Welcome to Always an Expat. Thank you. Yeah, a bit of a mouthful, all that, right?
Right. You did a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I need the pat on the back. Right. So, yeah, tell me. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us how you ended up in this unfortunate position, sat here talking to me.
Right. Well, as you said, that post I put out, I think that was a couple of months ago now, that sort of marked our 10-year anniversary of being in the US. So our family's journey to getting here, I used to work for a commercial real estate company in the consulting world. So I worked out of London for about 8 years. I'm not from London, as you can tell from the accent. I'm originally from Northern Ireland.
No, you picked up a Northern Californian accent, right? That's
right. Well, it's like mid-Atlantic now, because when I go back to Ireland, everyone says I sound American. So
well, you still sound very Irish to me.
Oh,
so
good. I'd like to hear that. Yeah.
No, completely. The mid-Atlantic sound is not a good one.
No,
but
no.
I don't think you sound that way. So
good.
Definitely sound Irish to me.
Tell that to my family and friends back home, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, I was in London working for a commercial real estate consulting group. So I was doing consultancy, helping corporate occupiers explore different regions across Europe. And then it was actually my brother-in-law, so my wife's brother, moved over to San Francisco. He was in London with us, and we came over a couple of times to visit them and thought, California's quite nice. Let's see if we can make a move happen. And the company I worked for was an American company, so I just started asking around. And lo and behold, something came up that kind of fit the mold. It was actually a role that was supposed to be in Chicago. That's where the consulting HQ for the US was based. So the long and short of it, we eventually convinced them to let us move over and go to San Francisco with a short stint in Chicago first. So we had to do 3 months in Chicago, and then we got to move over to San Francisco. Luckily, that was in the summertime in Chicago.
So look, I started my US journey in San Fran. It's a cool city. I know it gets a lot of stick now. I mean, it's a lot less political, and it does have very real problems. But it's a cool city. But Chicago's also a pretty cool city, right?
Yes, it's a great city. I mean, especially if you're there in the summer. I mean, I can't attest to it in the winter, and California is full of ex-Chicagoans who talk about how many winters they lived in Chicago. They don't talk in years, they talk in winters.
Notches on the wall.
Right. So, it is a great city, but, the winters are pretty brutal there. And part of, us moving was to get that outdoor lifestyle, which is why California was kind of top of the list. It was either going to be California or Australia, and with the family, extended family over here already, it just made sense to try and explore coming over here first.
Are they still over here?
Yeah, so they're still in the Bay Area. So we have Emily's brother and his wife, and then their kids. So my kids have their cousins just 2 hours down the road. We're up in the Sacramento area now, so it's not far from the Bay Area.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That you've got actual family. You're an expat and you've got all that experience and you're in California, but you've got your actual brother-in-law and they've got the cousins 2 hours away. That's really cool.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Especially on the West Coast, because it is so much further, you know. The time difference is one thing, but just even traveling back, you know, it's an 10, 11 hour flight to get to London, where Emily's family is, or thankfully they've got direct flights from San Francisco to Dublin, so I can get back to Ireland in one flight as well. But it is still quite far, so it's nice.
That doesn't surprise me. There's, I think there's quite a vibrant American tech community and expat community around Google and Facebook and all that in Ireland.
Yes,
doesn't surprise me. There's direct flights.
Yeah, Dublin's taken off in the last 5-10 years for tech.
Yeah, it really has. So 10 years in, US citizens now?
Yeah, as of, I think, February or March this year, we became citizens.
Oh, newly minted.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Yeah, it was kind of a bizarre thing. You know, we just sort of went through the process. So I moved over on a visa. The company I was with sponsored my green card process, which was great. I mean, that's, as anybody, I'm sure you've had this conversation many times, getting that green card sponsorship is, the hardest thing of this whole process. Mm-hmm. And then once you're into that, you're sort of like, the green card is pretty much permanent anyway. So it's really like, do you see yourself staying here longer term? And if so, then, it makes sense to go for the citizenship. And, our kids are all embedded in the school system, and, it feels like this is a longer term thing for us. So we decided to sort of go ahead with it without really, I guess, giving it too much thought. But it all becomes real when you're sitting in the ceremony and pledging allegiance to the flag, and there's a message from the president and stuff like that. So it's kind of bizarre, but it feels good. I think it's we're committed to staying here long term, so it felt like it was the right thing to do.
The ceremony, the oath, was the weirdest thing for me. I thought nothing going into it, but then when you're actually doing it and you realise what you're committing to, which is essentially putting this country before Britain.
Right.
That I felt something in a way that I hadn't expected to.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Agree. Yeah. I think what got me more was, I don't know if you had this experience, but there was a letter, written by the president. Written by the president. But that was what hit home to me. It was really well put together about, how it was a nation built on immigration, and it did feel very like, the whole can-do attitude of the US and what it's all about was sort of encapsulated in that one letter. And that was the piece that really sort of hit home to me the most. It was like, okay, now I'm part of that story.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad it was this president's signature on that letter, not the last one. Yeah. Right. And no, I'm deadly serious. It would have...
I don't know what that letter would have been like.
It would have... yeah, right. It would have been talking all about him for a start. Yeah. I built this country. I'm so great. Yeah, well, but I would have felt different. I mean, I came here, like you presumably. I came here under Obama, and that America felt different back then. It felt like I was coming to a different country, and it would have diminished it for me.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah. So it was, it was good. It felt very welcoming, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the same for you, but we did it I was expected to be quite a small personal thing, but we got it. There was 1,000 people doing it, the ceremony together.
No, there were maybe 50 in mine.
1,000. That's what I was expecting. Yeah, we had 1,000 in like this convention center.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no, mine was quick. Do you know? Just reflect on something else you said about the distance you are on the west coast. So I actually, I'm on the east coast now. East coast, it's definitely not the UK, but it's got a UK-ish feel to it, and we're 5 hours time difference, or maybe 4 when the clocks go forward. But 5 hours usually, and the 6-hour flight. And we're close, but not, we're far, but not too far. We were in San Francisco for our first 6 months, and it's really different.
Right.
It's that time difference for a start.
Right.
I'm not a morning person, and I would, but obviously a lot of our dealings with the UK and Europe, and I would wake up, and you've got like an hour, 2-hour window before everything shuts down in the UK. So you wake up and you're immediately on a high alert, opening your emails.
Right.
My stress level went through the roof. You've got like 2 hours to do things before everyone goes away. So things that should take a couple of days were taking a week or so because,
Right.
because we keep missing people. And then the time difference, 8 hours, I think. I felt that difference from the UK. People think, oh, you're in New York, you're in San Fran. It's the same. It's not. Your distance from the UK is different to mine.
Oh, hugely. And culturally, it's different as well. I mean,
Oh,
that's one thing I always say, having been here for a while now, when you go back home and people talk about the US as a sort of country, and for me, it's more like a continent, right? The difference between each state it can be significant. It can be as great
huge.
As, being in the EU and being in Ireland versus, I don't know, Portugal. The cultural differences maybe not quite as extreme, but they're significant. They have a common language, but it is more like a continent. Each state has its own laws and representation. And then that goes down to the culture of how people do business as well. And like California is very different, as you know, to East Coast and how people do business there. And then, there's just that time difference, distance to the UK, which is just another added layer to it. But it's a fascinating country.
We totally underplay that state differencing in the UK. We think of it like our counties, and it's just not the same at all.
Right.
Doing business, we've got clients in most states. We've got 4 people, employees in 4 different states. I tell you what, that is a nightmare.
Right.
You have to register the business. I had no idea, but you have to register the business in each state. Then there's taxes in each state. Then there's reporting in each state. And it's like, wait, what did I just? What?
Right.
Just because you're down the road in Philly? Are you serious?
I know. And there's companies set up specifically to do that, to manage that complex process, where if you've got employees in multiple states, they'll help with all that complexity. It's not straightforward.
It's not straightforward at all. And America has this rightly deserved reputation for being sort of easy to do business. And it is, but it's also not. Maybe I've only ever run a business in America, so maybe I'm completely naive for what the rest of the world is like, but there are so many unnecessary roadblocks and complications here that makes me think, put up by these things like the States, which I just didn't expect.
Right.
And I find it hard. It is right. It rightly deserves its reputation as a business powerhouse, but they don't necessarily make it easy all the time, as people say they do.
I'm living in the state which is famously bashed by every other state as the least favourable to do business in, but yet somehow it's still, despite its challenges, it's still extremely successful. And I think it's partly to do with, yes, what you say is right, especially in states like California, they do make it more difficult for you, but there is still an underlying permeates through even all the bureaucracy that you have to deal with, and people are more it's more capitalist. People like good ideas and are willing to pay for things and are willing to champion them if they're good ideas. And I think that goes across the entire country. But they don't make it as easy as they could do, but it sort of seems to work regardless.
What is the secret sauce in America, though? So Europe is capitalist. I mean, I know it's more socialist than America, but that doesn't explain why America is just so leaps and bounds above everywhere else in terms of like the driving force of the global economy. I don't think it does anyway, but I don't know. I can't put my finger on what it is. We talk about the the get up and go, the embracing new ideas of America and Americans, and I'm sure those things are true, but they don't quite answer it fully for me. Do you have any?
The secret sauce. I feel like capitalism here is, I don't know if ingrained is the right word, but people generally, I mean, this is a generalization, but believe in it and, think it is the way forward, the American dream and all that. There's no class system. You can create something out of nothing. I feel like they really believe it here, whereas in Europe, it sort of feels a lot like they play in that world because they have to, because capitalism is the structure around which the world is built. But I feel like in the US, it's really part of the fabric of who they are. But I mean, massive generalizations, but that's what I feel. It's like, it's an authentic feeling around how the world is built over here.
There's so much opportunity here, and there's so much more opportunity than I think there is in Europe. And I don't understand fully why.
I don't know we're going to solve it in this one either.
No. I mean, look, it's not something we don't need to solve it, right? We've come here to try and take advantage of that,
right?
And be part of it and embrace it. But I think that Europe's such a wonderful place, and there are some fantastic businesses there, and there are people we know who are highly educated and driven and motivated. And yet, there just is so much more. There just seems to be so much more opportunity here, and I don't know what America is doing so right. Like, look, America does lots of things wrong, as everywhere does, but it does right. But, and I'm part of it, and I feel it, but I don't fully understand what it is about it.
Yeah, it is hard to put your finger on, for sure. I mean, I always feel like, because I've, since moving over here, I've started my own consulting business, and I do feel like when you start to talk to people about doing something new, whether that's a new career path or something completely like your own, there is a sentiment where people are encouraging and always look at the positives and try and point you in the right direction. And I don't necessarily think that's the case in the UK or Ireland. I mean, it's probably getting more the case because they do tend to follow, like, certainly innovation and things like that from the US. But when I was there, it definitely felt like you were on a career path, and to deviate, most of the people you'd speak to would sort of do that, suck in through their teeth and be like, you sure you want to do that? Because and then point out all the potential negatives rather than point out the positives of doing it. And you have to be aware of the negatives. You don't want to just blindly do something without weighing up the downsides. But maybe in the UK and Ireland they'd overplay the downsides rather than the upsides,
over-index on it. I heard on another podcast, I heard someone refer to, I think they might be repeating someone else, but they referred to Europe is a museum, Japan is a nursing home, and America is a business. And that was it. They were talking about this kind of thing, and that was.
I like that one.
Yeah, I did as well. I quite enjoyed it. Right, so this this LinkedIn post. So just everyone's listening. It's marking your 10 years in the US, and there's a picture of you on the flight. I'm looking at it right now. There's a picture of you on the flight. You've got a newborn in your arms. You've got one kid who's playing just the best face. She's having a meltdown, right? A total meltdown.
That's the middle one, Mabel. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not happy about what's going on. And then you've got another one who's just kind of trying to zone it all out, or like, this isn't happening.
Right.
I take it your wife's one taking the picture. Oh, so you're sharing the row of seats with a random there as well, are you?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that flight is that was the flight from London to Ireland. So that was before even the long haul flight. So you can see the fear in my eyes on that. I mean, I was terrified because I was like, we've got a 10-hour flight.
I've just come back I've just done a 2.5-hour flight from Florida. And I've got a 1-year-old who will not sit still. We call him Captain Relentless. That's what this kid's like. He's going to be a force, and it's going to be a wonderful life skill. But right now he's relentless, and you can't keep him still. He's kicking chairs and he's screaming, and I find it so unbelievably stressful.
It is stressful. It's stressful. So you can see the stress in my eyes because I've got a long flight to go after that one.
Oh man, I can't believe that's not even on the way to the US.
No.
But you made it.
We made it, yeah.
And you've added another one to the brood since then.
Yes. So we have 3 girls when we arrived, and then we had another one who's a boy. So he's now 7, so he calls himself the real American. He's very pleased about the fact he's the only one that was born over here, so he likes to rub it in his sister's faces, yeah. So,
you got him a British passport, though?
Not yet. That's coming. So the girls have their British passports. He's got his American passport. He's got his Irish passport, and he will get, because I'm from Northern Ireland, I can get both. So he will be getting his British passport as well.
Wait, right. This is going to show my ignorance here. I did not know that. As Northern Irish, you can get both passports, so you can still have the right. You still have an Irish passport. You can live in Europe.
Yep.
And be part of all that good stuff.
Yep.
Oh, you guys are winning.
I know. Northern Ireland doesn't know how lucky it is, and this sort of special place in the EU. But it's a complicated little country, as you know.
Yes, right. Well, there is that. Yeah, but on the positive, you get an Irish passport, and you still get to be part of Europe, and you can disavow Brexit if you want. Yeah, nice. Okay, I like that.
Which I have to say, having been back to Europe since Brexit, makes a big difference. Just getting in and out with the EU passport. Oh my word.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially in France, I feel like they're punishing the Brits for Brexit, because every time I go into France, there's like a line a mile long of UK passport holders.
Is that right?
Yes.
You know what? I wouldn't put it past them, and I respect them for it.
Right.
Yeah. On your... Excuse me. I have had a cough all of October.
Oh no!
The whole of October. One of my kids came down with something, passed it on to me, and then I've just, whether it's allergies, I don't know what it is, but the whole of October, we get the seasons here are fantastic. Like, my wife loves it because we get 4 seasons, and it's so distinct, and fall in particular is stunning.
Yeah.
But I pay for it in allergies at this time of the year.
Oh man.
Right, and one of your you listed some observations here, right? And one of them. This is a funny one, but it really resonates for me. You accepted that ranch dressing is regarded as a legitimate pizza condiment for some people over here. Some people, that now includes me. Oh, sadly, this now includes our kids too.
Yeah, and my kids. I mean, the first time it happened, we had a birthday party for one of the kids at our house and loads of pizza, and all these, I think they were like 5 or 6 years old, these kids just kept coming up going, "Have you got any ranch dressing?" And I was like, "What? We aren't serving any salad. What are you talking about?" And then, it just became everywhere we went, every pizza place. I was like, now my kids don't eat pizza without ranch, which is kind of depressing for me. But
yeah. But I would, I was, when I first encountered this, I was in San Francisco, and the person who ordered it, I was like, "What are you doing with that?" For the crust. I was like, "That's disgusting." I tried it. Okay. I could do this. Right. But American pizza is different, though. American pizza, the crust does kind of need something.
Right. But imagine if you were Italian. I often think the Italians must be like
rolling in. They would be horrified.
Right.
But then you have to be careful around here. If you go into an Italian restaurant, I've made enough mistakes now. Do we need Italian? Yeah. Or American Italian?
Right. Yeah,
because I generally want Italian. If I want an unbelievable amount of food,
yes,
spaghetti and meatballs or something like that, then yes, Italian American. But otherwise, there's a big difference.
Right. Don't ask
go
for
into
ranch.
a food coma.
Yeah. Don't ask for ranch in an Italian. You get thrown out.
Yeah, they're not going to have that. So what else, as you look back on 10 years, like, is there any other challenges or surprises stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of the blissful ignorance of coming over here I mean, I honestly can't believe we did it. Like, our youngest was 7 weeks old when we came over, and yes, you know, like I said, we had 3 months in Chicago, which was sort of treated like almost like a vacation, because we had a nice little apartment. It wasn't even that nice, actually, but it was in a nice part of Chicago. It was in Lincoln Park, and you know, it was in the summer, so it sort of didn't even feel real at that point. And then we moved over to the East Bay, and you know, we had a house with very little. I think, you know, we had not even half a shipping container of stuff brought over. So we went to IKEA and just like built all the furniture. Feels like, you know, almost like a dream that we did it. I couldn't even fathom doing it now, but we did it, and it was challenging, and it was sort of like spirit of adventure and all that. And it was, you know, it was good, but
I can't imagine how stressful it must have been with 3 kids and a brand new one as well. It's stressful enough, all the moving parts, all the logistics.
Right.
I think I don't know, maybe you didn't encounter this because you were transferring with a company, but then you get here and you can't rent a place. You've got no credit history. You need to get let. No. And just like, how did you have a roof? Simple things like having a roof over your heads. I mean, that was scary and worrisome for my wife and I. I didn't have 3 kids in tow.
Right. Well, my wife and her brother deserve a lot of credit for that, because, you know, I was working in Chicago. She had to fly over to California a couple of times with the kids to look at houses. And then between her and her brother, they managed to secure a place for us. But it wasn't easy, because you know, talk about blissful ignorance. I was totally naive to the whole credit history thing, and you're trying to rent a house and you've got no credit history. You're literally just arrived in the country and you're trying to convince somebody that you're, you know, worthy tenants. It's not an easy thing to do. So she had to come out in person. And that was why having that 3 months in Chicago made that step a little bit easier, even though it was difficult going back and forth. But at least she was in the country and she could go and try and secure a house. But, you know, it's like anywhere in the US that's a popular place, getting a rentable place that was decent in the Bay Area was a nightmare. I mean, it was like, as soon as they came on the market, people were like straight there, you know, signing. So we just got a little bit lucky we got a really good place. Unfortunately, we were told that we would have it for 3 years, and then after a year, they told us they needed it back because the owners were coming back from overseas. So we ended up having to move again. Yeah. Which was only just up the road, but you know, after a year,
3 kids,
with 3 kids,
having just moved from the UK, having just moved from Chicago. Yeah, that
was almost the breaking point. We were sort of questioning the whole thing.
How did the kids adapt to all this?
You know, that stage, they were young enough. It was fine. I think, you know, and we were just getting the removal van and everything, but they were staying in the same schools and all that, so that was fine. We stayed there like for 3 years, and then we moved again up here, but that was, you know, after 3 years in the Bay Area. So, and we moved to the Sacramento area when our oldest she'd just done kindergarten, so she was going into 1st grade. And I remember we were consciously having this discussion about, you know, the older the kids get, the harder it is, because then, you know, they have their friend groups and it's like, it becomes more complicated. So when we decided to move up here, it was like, we got to do this now or I'll sort of commit to being in the Bay Area longer term. But I think, you know, our oldest at that point was complaining about going to a new school, saying things like, oh, they won't even know how to do recess up there, like, you know, just nonsense stuff. But like, you know, for her little brain, it was just, she couldn't quite, you know, comprehend moving to a different place. But I think the older they get, the harder that.
Why Sacramento?
So it was a job that I got. So I went from working on the corporate consulting side to on the economic development side. So it's the other side of the same coin. So instead of representing companies, representing a region and trying to attract companies to the region. So Sacramento had just launched a new economic development regional group. So I helped them get that stood up. It was like 2016.
So how long you been there?
Since 2016. So,
Since 2016, so quite a while then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've moved around a lot in the early days, and you've been in Sacramento for a while now.
Yeah,
Do the kids feel?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah, no. Finish it, please.
No, we're a little bit further east of Sacramento, so we're in El Dorado County, which is like it's about 40 minutes into Sac, and it's in between Sacramento and Tahoe, which is nice.
Nice.
You'll appreciate.
Okay.
I don't know if you like skiing, but the
Yes.
novelty of, we can be in Tahoe in just over an hour skiing.
Oh, nice.
And then
Just over an hour.
Yeah, it's pretty
That
nice.
is because Tahoe is good, and you're getting a lot of snow now.
Yeah.
After a lean spell,
Right.
you're getting some good snow, right?
Yeah. So
Just over
that's
an
nice.
hour.
And it's people come up from the Bay Area, but the drive from the Bay Area is a mission. Whereas
Well, it's like 3 hours, isn't it, on a good day? But when
yeah.
everyone's traveling 7 or 8 hours,
Yes,
easily.
easily.
Screw that.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
No. So we're sort of touching distance to a decent sized city. I mean, this is the thing that blows people's minds back home. Like Sacramento is the state capital. A lot of people don't even know about it, but there's 2.5 million people live in the greater Sacramento area.
It's
And
really.
then the Bay Area is like 8 million people. I mean, so we're close enough to a decent sized city, and even going down to the Bay Area to do business is still doable. You can go down a couple of times a month, no problem.
Yeah.
But you don't have to deal with the crazy.
Do the kids like it where you are?
Oh, they love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Do your kids feel much of a connection to the UK and Ireland, or because they're pretty young? They do feel a connection, do they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so funny because Emily, my wife, is from Surrey, right? So she's got an English accent, and the kids, when they're at home, talk with an English accent. And
do they?
when they have their friends over, then they go straight into American. But
Do
it's
they really?
crazy.
Wait, they have a home with
Yes.
a parent with my parents'
Yeah.
accent and with friend, and they're not conscious of it, are they? Or are they?
I take the mickey out of them, so they.
Obviously. Yeah.
But they just do it like without thinking. And I always say, why did you not adopt the Northern Irish accent? Why did you pick the English accent? They spend more time with their mum. Plus, it's easier accent to pick up. But yeah, we go to a restaurant and there's things like they still say tomato. They won't say tomato, even when ordering stuff in the restaurant. But yeah, and then when their friends are over, it's like full on American accents. It's so funny.
Do you think there's a chance they could? Do they show any interest in ever living there? I mean, I know they're young, so it might be too early to have this conversation. But could you see a situation, a possibility where they do end up back over there?
Well, yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, we were going back every other year. We would go back, and we would do an Ireland-England trip. COVID obviously put a stop to that, but we went back last year, and they do appreciate the difference, especially, I think, even more so from California when you go back, because California is so new, and you go back, and whether it's Ireland or London, I mean, there's castles and old stuff, and they love all that. And, their grandparents are there, and, so they definitely have a connection to it, no question. So I could see, I think our oldest has already asked us about, university over there and things like that. So we'll see, but it wouldn't surprise me if one of them decided to do university over there, or at least explore it. And we've got lots of family over there, so it's it wouldn't be that daunting. My wife will tell you she's not in favor of the kids going far away for university, but I could see it happening for sure.
How would you feel about that in terms of like the different drinking culture? And this might be me being naive about what it's like in America, but I just, because it's at 21, it seems to me that they don't have quite the same.
No,
I mean, they love booze here. I know it's got this reputation for being like teetotal and holier than thou, but I tell you what, the people I know love booze. But
yeah,
kids less so, it seems.
yeah. No,
Would you
I
be scared
agree
of
with that.
dropping an 18-year-old from America into a British culture
Yes.
of like boot? Yeah, I would as well, I think.
Yes, very much so. And they just start earlier.
Yeah. Speaking from
Yeah.
experience, yeah.
Well, yeah, and also just going back now, and I have friends who are, who have kids that are 15, 16, and it hasn't seemed to have changed massively from when we were growing up. So, which I thought it maybe had, and it probably has a little bit, but certainly.
Well, is that right? Because my wife, who gets all her information from TikTok, she is convinced that it has changed and that Generation Z are drinking less because everything is captured on phone. So you think about all the stupid stuff we did, being, thank God phones weren't around. So
Yeah, no.
she's convinced they're all teetotal and living the good life.
Well, I think
I'm not so sure.
It has changed by the numbers, apparently. But, anecdotally, when I speak to people who have kids of that age, they're still doing the stuff that we were doing. Maybe they're a bit smarter about it because they don't want to get filmed doing something, but they're still doing what we used to do.
I do think it would change your behaviour. If you knew that, if you're thinking about some of the shenanigans we got up to, if you knew that someone or everyone there had a camera phone in their pocket, you might.
I think it would, yeah.
I think it would. And the internet, knowing that things live forever on the internet. Because you also think about when Facebook first came about and we all just posted everything to Facebook.
I know,
and
right?
now, you're like, 15 years later, you're like, wait, can I unwind all that?
Yeah, you have to go and do an audit. Like, okay, now knowing what I know, let's go and clean this up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it would have to change how you are in a social setting because, once it's out there, it's out there. There's no taking it back. So, undoubtedly they're more cautious.
How old's your oldest now?
So, gosh, she's going to be 14 next month.
So if you were in the UK now, she will be approaching that age of what we just talked about, experimenting with booze in a heavy way. Like that's when we all started. That's not the same here, then, is it not? Good.
Certainly not on the radar yet. So
right.
I don't think it is. I mean, we have friends over here who have kids are a couple of years older, and it doesn't seem to be a thing. So long may that continue, because I just think it's an added layer of complexity that we don't want to have to deal with. I mean, we talk about it, and what our expectations are, and but it honestly doesn't seem to be part of the culture yet. I mean, it will be. I think,
of course,
that 21 age limit just pushes it out a couple of years. I think, from what it would be in the UK.
Until my early 30s, I felt sorry for American kids. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was a horrible rule. And then I moved here and I grew up a bit. And I realised that actually I've done a complete 180. I think it's much better. What I don't like is the way in America underage drinking is criminalised.
Yeah.
But then they love to criminalise anything and everything here.
Right.
But
Right.
I think that's unnecessary. I do prefer the drinking age 21. I think it's sensible. I think it's better. I think it's healthier. But you don't need to criminalise a 19-year-old that you catch a beer. Come on.
No.
Do me a favour.
No. Yeah. No, and I don't know what it's like in your state, but California, obviously weed is legal, but their approach to cannabis has been a lot more liberal than a lot of other states. So that seems to be more part of the culture than drinking, for sure. That wasn't the case in Ireland. Still isn't the case in Ireland. Like people, and even in the UK, it's just like they don't really have that culture. Whereas that's part of it over here.
Yeah.
Which I think is safer. I think it feels like a safer experimentation.
Yeah. Just changing gears slightly. You said think about the UK. Some of the things that I really dearly miss that just I was speaking to a guy earlier, and we were talking about walking towns, just being able to walk places. How much I miss that.
Right.
One of the other things you touched on before is old buildings. Like I even follow this thing on LinkedIn, historic Britain or something, and they just give me it's feeds the itch for me to see old buildings. But just everything around here is so new and it's so bland.
I know. And in California, it's even newer, right? I mean, it's so that's hard to get used to. I mean, where we are, we're sort of in the center of where the gold rush started. So there's a lot of like old pioneering frontiersy towns, which are kind of cool.
That's
But,
pretty cool.
they're all like mid 1800s. It's not really old, but it is, at least it's some character.
Yeah, yeah.
That's quite good. But I agree with you. I kind of miss that. I miss the walkability aspect of. I think you posted something about missing the pub, and that struck a chord with me. Like when we lived in London, like we had a pub at the end of our road. It was just like the best, and like there's no like real walkable spots unless you're living. San Francisco. If you're living downtown San Francisco, you sort of have that high dense urban living, but that's the exception, not the rule. Like, there's not many US cities like that.
So we had that. We lived in San Francisco. We lived in New York, and we had, I could walk to a million bars, and some great bars and some great restaurants. But a pub is a different beast altogether.
Yes,
And every time I say this, I think my wife. She's like 20 miles away in Manhattan, and she's rolling her eyes. She's so sick of hearing me go on about this. She's so fed up to the back teeth. But I can't help it. I truly miss them. They are so special.
Right.
And
Right.
you just think because they're so good, you just think that they're going to be, the whole world's going to have an equivalent. And it doesn't.
The Irish pub, that's why it's gone everywhere, right? They've sort of tried to tap into that. But it is a real thing, there's no question. What I also miss is sports that everybody watch together, because here, there's some people who are into watching the Premier League or whatever. It's all at like 9 a.m, so it's not really the same thing. I'm massively into rugby, just watched the World Cup. But, I have to invite a load of Americans and explain the rules and, try and get them excited about this weird sport that they have no interest in. So I do miss that. That's probably the two, and this, sounds terrible, but like two of the biggest things I miss are the pub and then sports that everybody, goes to the pub to watch, like the Six Nations or, watching a good football game.
I mean, I'm not massively into either football or rugby, but I went to the pub to watch them because that was where my friends were, and it was good to have. You'd have 4 or 5 pints and a bite to eat and a good laugh.
Right.
And it was great fun, and it's just not the same here. What have you got into American football?
You'd think I would, because rugby's kind of closely associated with it, but actually, basketball is the most is the most interest I have in any American sport, because it's like non-stop. I mean, you have timeouts and stuff, but I much prefer that. Like, yes, yeah.
I 100% agree. Basketball is the same. A day out of the baseball in the summer is fun, though.
Yes.
I prefer a day out of the baseball than I did at the cricket, controversially. Disown me, the UK. I'm sorry, but a day out of the baseball in the sun with the biggest can of Modelo you've ever seen. Literally, you have to get your arms around it. Like it was just the last half of it is like lukewarm, but still,
I'd agree
good day
with you.
at the baseball.
I mean, I didn't play cricket growing up, but I did go to watch a fair bit of cricket when I lived in London. I went there. I was there for the 2005 Ashes. The Freddie Flintoff one.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that was
pretty
good.
Good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not a big baseball fan, but I still prefer.
Oh no, I've got no idea what's going on, but I'm a fan of sitting out in the sunshine drinking Modelo.
Right.
Good.
It's good going with somebody who actually can explain it to me, because then I get a little bit more out of it. But I'll never watch it on TV.
No, me neither. But I find American football like completely baffling. Like, I'm not a rugby or I do like soccer, but I kind of get the appeal. But rugby, American football seems to be scratching my head, and I know that's sacrilegious to America. It's like the one thing that unites America.
Yeah.
Nothing unites America. Like black, white, gay, straight, it seems.
Right.
They all, and I'm just like, why?
Right. It's so complex. And it's so stop-start. It's the stop-start, but I mean, I actually like watching the highlights of it, because I can appreciate, like, as a sport, it's like very skillful and violent, and it's fun to watch. But it's just so, I can't get into it. It's too.
I think until we embrace that, we're gonna get to feel like outsiders forever.
I know. Well, I do worry about that. I'm like, will I ever feel fully? Probably not. But I'm trying to bring rugby to America, but I think they're fighting that one. Although the World Cup's coming here in 2031, so they're going to have to figure out some way of liking it.
Is it going to Canada as well? Is it splitting between Canada and...
No, I think it's fully in the US. The men's Rugby World Cup is 2031 and then the women's is 2033. But, no one's interested yet.
But on that note about assimilation and all that, do you feel like an American? How do you feel about this place?
Yeah,
or your place in it?
I don't know if I can say I feel American, but I guess what America is people from all over the, different cultures and different places. So in that sense, I don't feel like I'm not part of what America is, but I don't know. I still feel weird, standing for the national anthem and stuff, even though I'm American. So I think it'll just take me a bit longer to get there. But yeah, I mean, it's like I have a friend who lived here and he just moved back to Europe and he's living in Portugal. And, I think his experience of living here versus there, I mean, he's only just there a couple of months, but he very much feels like an expat. And I don't really feel like an expat over here. I feel like I'm part of the community and part of the fabric of life. It's not like going to a country where there's, like in Spain, there's big expat communities and they all tend to stick together. I don't think it's like that over here. So in that respect, I feel like I'm part of the community. But I don't know if that's the same as feeling American. But I'll get there maybe.
Do you ever feel... I don't know what the word here is. Lonely might be the wrong word. But, do you ever feel like... when you're in the UK or Ireland, it is home. You feel you're a part of it. There's a better word for this, but you know what I mean. And with America, I'm American. I feel assimilated, but there's always a part of me that doesn't. That feels not.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
Yeah, I think so. But I've had that. Because I left Northern Ireland in '97, went to university in Scotland, and then, went travelling for a bit, lived in Dublin, Ireland, and I had it there, because I was from the north and not the south.
You had it in that? Yeah, had that
yeah,
there,
and then I had it, and then we moved to London, and I had it there, where
How did you?
I'm Northern Irish, not English, and I have it here, but I would say I have it here to a lesser degree than... those other places, even Dublin, which is weird.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I wouldn't have expected that.
Right, but I think that's back to America, and particularly California, is a place where there's people from all over the world, and that's just what the culture is. So I do have it, but to a lesser degree than other places I've lived, where you wouldn't expect me to have it.
No, I really wouldn't. That's new insight for me. That I've just, I assumed a Scot would feel the same in England as I would think I would feel in Scotland. Maybe I wouldn't. I've only ever lived in England and the UAE, but the UAE is a very expat place. We were talking about,
right?
I'm an expat here, but to your point, it's not an expat place.
Right. But like if you lived in London, being from the north, you probably would have a little bit of that feeling where you're a northerner down south.
In the UAE, when I lived in Dubai, all our friends were from London, proper London. I was like the token northerner. We used to joke about it. We just got invited into this group of London Irish. All their parents were Irish. They were all born and bred in London, in the same part of North London, Tottenham, that kind of area.
Oh yeah.
And my wife worked with one of their girlfriends or one of their wives, and we just got co-opted into this group. And I tell you, people from Bolton are very different from people from London, proper London. Like, we used to just joke about it all the time, and it was wildly different.
Yeah.
That was a real eye-opener for me. Great people, but I used to joke, right? There's not one person from London who won't tell you their supposed connection to the craze. Every single person in London is the parent or their uncle or their uncle's friend or the cousin's uncle. They're one degree separation from the craze.
Yeah, they gotta sound edgy because being from London is not edgy.
No, I tell you that I used to just rib them about it mercilessly. Yeah, but mine, it was my father's brothers used to an enforcer for the craze. Like, oh right, yeah, for you it's real. I was like, everything up north, we just fix everything with like a cup of tea or a pint. Like, you guys are going around bashing heads. Like, what's going on? Everyone calm down.
Right. No, I do miss that. Like, the immediate, that's what I think Northerners have this and Irish have this, where you meet people who you're friends with and it's instantly about taking the mickey out of each other.
Yeah.
And, I've a few Irish friends over here, and sometimes we get together with, some American friends, and the American guys are like, do you actually like each other? Or is this like normal behavior? Like, yeah, the more we abuse each other, the more we like each other. That's generally how it goes.
Yeah. The Irish are good at that. The Irish are very good at that.
You gotta be on your game.
Yeah. The other thing about the Irish is, when I went travelling, the Irish have this reputation for being able to drink a lot. And I tell you, it's so true. I remember whenever you met with the Irish, they could just drink anyone at the table. The next day, get up and be fine and do it again. And you're like, I need to take 2 days out here.
Right. There's a reason there's Irish bars everywhere.
Yeah, a wonderful thing. Right. As we wrap up here, this is a podcast about being an expat in America. Let me ask you, we talked about it before. You mentioned the American dream. What does the American dream mean to you? Do you even think it's real?
Yeah, I do think it's real. I think already covered it, really. I think it's the sense of possibility for doing, whatever it is you want to do if you put your mind to it. It sounds really corny, but I do think there is that culture over here where people will help you make that happen. So it's like if you put in the work and if you're willing to, explore new ideas and possibilities and talk to the right people, I think you will find a support network here that's pretty broad and pretty varied of people who will help you get there. And I think that's part of what the American dream is, I think. It does sound really corny to say that, but it does feel real. And I think California in particular, for all its challenges, still has that immigrant aspect. There's new people coming all the time to come and explore innovation and new ideas in Silicon Valley and beyond. And I think, it's alive and well here. It's still got issues to deal with, but it feels like a place where you can make things happen.
Yeah, California gets a lot of stick. And a lot of sick things like taxation and stuff. You're like,
right.
And yet everyone's moving there because it's such
the largest economy in the world.
Right? There's a reason, supply and demand. There's a lot of demand. You go to California and you just get it. It's just.
But it does. It does have to. It does have to. Still be a good steward of its citizens. And if you go to San Francisco and it's widely reported. The issues of homelessness and stuff, it's got work to do, which it probably hasn't had to face for gotta do the work.
I don't know how you solve that problem. I remember when I was there.
It's definitely above my pay grade, as they say over here.
I landed and it was actually St. Paddy's Day. It was St. Paddy's Day in March, and I remember going up in our Market Street, and it was just. It was coming from Europe. It's completely bewildering. The level of the Tenderloin is just a fascinating, scary place.
It's crazy.
It's also, do you know what else is quite scary? How quickly you get used to it and almost don't see it.
Right.
That was a real eye opener for me.
Yeah, that happened to me a few times where I had people coming to visit and I was blind to it and they were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, what's going on here?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's the tenderloin."
Yeah. Like you said, I think that's the only place I've seen people actually doing drugs. Like in
Yeah.
front of me, like, you know, intravenous drugs. I'm on an open top bus looking down, just
Right.
it was fascinating. Right, like you say, above our pay grade. I'm glad I don't have to sort these problems
Yes.
out.
Right.
I'll stick to solving the problems of British expats living in America.
Yeah,
Right.
finding good pubs.
Yeah. Yes. Right. A lifelong mission. Neal, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Neal Best, NEALBEST. My company is futuremobility.io. Look me up if you need any help with clean tech, clean mobility, accessing the California ecosystem, and doing business over here.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like surely there's a lot of people who want to do that. So
Right?
look him up, folks. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Neal. Love to having this conversation with you, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Appreciate it.
Cheers.